talking about limiting beliefs?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have so much more potential. Most successful men during the journey, they were their biggest adversary. They were. I have talked myself out of I don't know how many things because somewhere, somehow, someone has done something to me to make me doubt or lack my ability.
All right, we're here at the Core Medical Military Appreciation Weekend, and we're surrounded by warriors and leaders who have built something and dedicated their lives to something bigger than themselves. And but not just in uniforms, beyond that, beyond their times in service, beyond whatever it was in their youth. But because those accolades only go so far. The whole saying of, well, back in the day. Yeah, sure, back in the day, and I want to hear what you have to say about that. But man, we got let me say this right: former Navy SEAL, Ray Cashcare.
Close enough.
Okay.
It's Ray Cashcare, former Navy SEAL, but we're not
Ray Cash.
apples and oranges.
You've done what most people can really only imagine what they play on TV. But I want to get into some of the hardest lessons that you've learned in life. Mm-hmm. So the first one being. What's a moment in your life where you thought this might break me, and how did you push through it?
Shit, where do I start?
You probably have several of those moments.
Do you want to be more specific with like buds
No.
or?
No. Just like think of a moment that you're like, damn, this might actually break me.
Well, let's start with SEAL training. That would have been Steel Pier. So Steel Pier, for those that don't know, is where, there's a big barge and it's steel and the surroundings, the atmosphere, 'cause it's cold and they spray you down and you have to constantly keep getting up and doing little things and getting in the water and coming back and just over and over again until your body just says no. And it's one of the few times, I'm not going to sit here and say I never thought about quitting buds, but that was a big one that day, and,
yeah.
We got a guy downstairs that, Redmond, he was in my buds class, and I literally looked back and said, dude, just push me in, because my body stopped. It wouldn't do it again. As far as personal life, I know this is going to let me finish.
Yeah.
I think it was the day my daughter was born. Just how nervous and anxious and excited I was. I was just like, holy shit, man, this is going to break me. Not in a bad way, but just like it broke me on levels of being vulnerable. There's different levels of like breaking, it broke me down to, I think, the purest form of being a vulnerable man, because, when your wife's giving birth, there's nothing you can do except sit there and pray. And, and when my daughter Nyla came out, my daughter, she was dead quiet for a second, and I was just like, at that moment, I was like, please
yeah.
God. It was the most horrifying and beautiful thing, in a split second, and my life flashed before my eyes. So other than that, man, you know me and who I am. I just put my head down, like get my ass whooped by you today, and just go for it, But yeah, they're probably two of the biggest ambushes that I had that affected me internally the most.
Excellent. We talk a lot about leadership and the resilience, but what's something about the weight of responsibility that people don't understand?
Well, it's a 24/7 thing, the weight of responsibility, it never ends. And if anything, it increases. And, some of the greatest leaders I've met really know how to balance the levels. Like I'm going through 20,000 things right now as we're sitting here talking, and you got to do it with a smile on your face. But it's all about just being able to, I talk about the three things that I do with everything with leadership. I prioritize, I strategize, and I monetize, right? So I prioritize what's important. I strategize how I'm going to get it done. And then from the monetization standpoint, right, I know we're entrepreneurs, but it's how can I create growth, right? Not just, there's physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, and financial growth. I'm trying to, as a leader, expand on all avenues of growth, but it's not as easy as people think. To be a great leader, it's like playing chess. You've got leadership is looking out and up, not down and in.
Yeah. So on leadership, because I think that a lot of people, especially in the military, look at us and go, "Oh, you came from special operations, so you guys are great leaders." Uh,
Sorry.
yeah. So, can you talk about the difference of leadership, like being on a SEAL team versus how you lead, say, a team now with everything that you have going on?
Well, quite honestly, I try to infuse what I learned in the SEAL teams. I do a lot of corporate.
Same.
Yeah.
Yes. There's pieces of
There's
it for
pieces
sure.
of it, but obviously it's dialed down. And, I tell people, in special operations, you make a mistake, people don't come home.
Right.
But I try to infuse, the power. And again, I know who I'm talking to and the audience, the power of pulling that trigger, you can't undo that.
Right.
The power of signing something, sometimes you can't undo that. So you have to be methodical with your thought process. Decision making is ask, make, and take. And you have to learn how to slow the process down to get faster. Like when you go into a room, right, clearing houses, you come up with a systematic format that works. You have to do the same thing.
Excellent. Can you talk about that breakdown real quick?
Yeah. So,
Ask, make, and take.
ask, make, and take. Right. Let's put it in layman's terms and talk about my wife Tricia, 110 pounds, road rage. Right. She will literally cuss a guy out your size, and I'm in the car and I got to get out and go, "Oh, God, I'm going to die." But what most people do with decision making is they don't use the whole system. They ask and then you just make a decision. They don't, ask, you got to make and then take. They just make and take action. They don't ask, what are the consequences going to be, right?
Yeah.
And this happens all the time. You see the road rage, you see all this stuff, but the best advice I could give a leader and what I try to implement from what I learned from, I've worked with some of the greatest leaders on the planet and some of the shittiest ones too. It's everywhere. Is you have to you can't leave out one of those parts. Ask, make, take. And in the teams, we say analyze, assess, execute. I had to get corporate. They don't like the word execute. So I changed it to ask, make, and take. But the key component to this is I try to make people the special operations operator of their life, the Navy SEAL of their life. It doesn't matter if you're overseas doing a mission, man, if you're sick and you're a mom and you're watching, and you're a single mom like my mom was, trying to get shit done is a mission too. It's tough.
Absolutely.
So I just try to.
Your life is your life.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to make the most of it.
And it doesn't need to be compared to somebody else's.
Well, that's the thing. So many people compare, like, I don't do what you do. And we have a lot of overlapping fields of fire, but you do a lot more business than me, and I'm trying to get better at that. But I think the best way that to become better is surround yourself with better people. I was fortunate. We've been fortunate in our communities. I'm sure you were around a lot of great people, but people also have to be willing to share that knowledge and wisdom that they have. But it's then your duty and obligation to pass it on, right? Pay it forward. So many people are selfish with their knowledge. And there's so many, the more you make, the more you give.
And that's a very scarcity mindset, right? Like you think that I'm going to give this piece of information and they're going to somehow take it away from me. Like it's not the way that it works.
Just like with, people in our line of work, there's so much out there. There's enough for all of us.
100%.
There's enough for all of us. Like we have certain rules and, listen, what's yours is yours and what's mine's mine, right?
Yep.
Hey, when you're invited to my lawn and my house, come on over, but don't fucking come over to my house and lawn and take a shit without asking me. So, and that can be with anything, especially in business. It doesn't need to be cutthroat. I'm trying to become a businessman. I call it the art of retention. I want to do things like I have employees and team members that work under me. I pay them more than what I even tell them I do, because when I need them, right, it's like, because I'm trying to build that, not off of money, but it's just like, listen, I believe in you and I trust in you and I want to reward you. So then when the shit hits the fan, right, you get in that firefight, something happens, it's a time-sensitive target, they're there for me. I mean, my team will work for me on the weekends and they won't ask a question, and they're married with family, with kids, because they know I'm not abusing it.
Yeah.
I ask, hey, listen, we're in a time crunch here, and my team steps up, and I reward them for it. And this is things I've learned from great leaders, both in the SEAL teams and in the entrepreneur world.
It's like the whole thing, take what's good, learn from it. Take what's bad, learn from it too.
From it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For those who are out there struggling, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, what's one truth you wish every man understood to overcoming those struggles?
The power of just believing in yourself. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I get on stage all the time and I say, I bet on me. So many human beings, not just men. I mean, I usually focus on men.
You talking about limiting beliefs?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have so much more potential. You know as well as I do, most successful men during the journey, they were their biggest adversary. They were. I have talked myself out of I don't know how many things, because somewhere, somehow, someone has done something to me to make me doubt or lack my ability. And the minute that I just said, you know what, I'm going all in, man. I'm going to believe in myself, and I know I have so much more. Man, I think, people say think big. You hear it. Like, I'll give you an example. I ask guys, think big. They're like, I want to make $1 million. Dude, that's not thinking big. That's not thinking big. Thinking big is like, I want you to think insane.
Yeah.
Like, I think now how much I want to be worth per minute, how much, and because my time is the most precious commodity I have. And I want to, if I'm not making money, I want to spend time with my family and make money. I know we have a lot in common like that, right?
Yeah.
Residual income, doing the things that matter, and just making a mark, man. But fuck yeah, man, that's what it's about.
Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. And I know it almost sounds like a cliche. People are like, it's so corny.
It is.
For the longest time.
Truth.
And people give me shit. They're like, you were a Navy SEAL. I have been for probably the first 45 years of my life the most insecure motherfucker you'll ever meet. But we're so good at hiding
it.
it.
That's a dirty, dark secret in special operations.
We are.
Like we are the most insecure, but that's the reason why everybody's constantly pushing to be better, is because they think that they're not good enough.
But the minute, and I used to do things like, and the biggest piece of advice I can tell people is stop doing things to prove others wrong and start doing shit to prove yourself right. I do things now for me.
Yeah.
Me and me only. That's it. I have my team, trust, effort, attitude, mission, and that's team care. That's my family. I include my wife in everything and like, listen, we're going for this. And she's like, let's do it. That's it. It's that simple, man.
Yeah, one of the biggest conversations happening in I guess probably the world right now is, especially about high performers, and if you really see it in like big CEOs, they're getting healthier. They're looking at their hormone health. We have a testosterone epidemic in the nation. Oh. You know what I mean? Like and that goes along the lines with our food, our lifestyle, the stuff that they put out there, right? But you can be disciplined as hell, but if you're working against your body and it's not working for you, you're fighting an uphill battle.
I agree.
Especially with age. Like you're turning 53.
53 on the 5th of March, man. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you're out there rolling on the mats with a bunch of young guys.
I got my ass kicked today, but I loved it. I tell
but you're
people
feeling good.
I feel fantastic, and it's because of the TRT anti-aging that I take, because the biggest thing people don't understand is as you get older, your body will stop producing some things,
it starts to go down,
but it also will overproduce the wrong things. So and there's a misconception, right? People have this visualization that you're taking steroids and you get bigger. It has nothing to do with that. I've actually lost weight and gotten in better shape.
Yeah.
Lean muscle, functional muscle mass that I have now, because my body, I was low on testosterone, but I also needed vitamins and I needed peptides. It's not just, it's not a one shot, you're healed and you're going to look like this. But it's getting your levels. It's about living for your levels.
It is funny that people like a lot of, because you and I both get the comments on social media. It's like, oh, you just want to take steroids and get jacked. I'm like, dude, I'm 200 pounds. I'm 6 foot and 200 pounds. I'm not jacked.
I weigh more than you right now. That's insane.
You know what I mean?
That's insane.
Like that's not what it's about. You're talking about those guys that are, that are jacked and that are huge. Like that doesn't happen by accident. You don't just take a shot and go sit on the couch and watch Netflix and then just look like that. That's an immense amount of work.
And people are so like, I don't understand why people get so angry when you're trying to help them. Like I broke it down. I'm like, look guys, it's $299 to get your blood work done.
Yeah.
$350 for you and your wife. And just so you know, I'm about $1,500 a year and my wife's about $1,200 a year. Break that down. And people are like, that's $100 a month. And I'm like, okay.
How much you spending on monsters a month or
Exactly. I break it down. Or drinking,
nicotine package,
porn.
drinking,
I mean, I could
whatever.
go on and on.
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, and then also I'll ask somebody this question. This is the question that hits home. Listen, you won't spend that kind of money to stay ahead of the game because the blood tells the story.
Right.
It can let you know if something's coming. Hey, this is off, this is off, this is off. And people are like, well, that's too much money. But how much would you spend if you or your loved ones were sick? Anything to get better.
Oh, so it's thousands of thousands of dollars.
Makes no sense. And then don't even get me started with big pharmaceutical that just wants to keep you medicated and depressed.
We were talking about that the other day. Just
it's
treating
insane.
the symptom, just constantly treating the symptom.
They don't want you taking what we're on because they don't want you living longer and being healthier and happier. And I hope this pisses someone off.
Did you ever feel like you were just like, as I've gotten older, you ever feel of just like being off? This is maybe obviously before TRT, but just feeling off and not knowing why?
Yes. So muscle memory, fatigue, libido. I mean, a lot of things. And, as you get older.
What age was that you were?
Probably 40, 44, 45. And at first, what do we do as men? Oh, I'm fine. But finally, you got to drop the ego and you've got to ask, subject matter experts. And when you get your blood work done, they're like, hey, listen, the reason why you're feeling like this is because of this, this, and this. And if you take this, this, and this for projected this amount of time, you're going to feel better. I'm like, wait a minute, it can't be that easy. It is that easy.
What was some of the biggest symptoms you started noticing as you started getting older? Because you've stayed physical.
I've stayed physical, so recovery time.
Okay.
Biggest thing.
Big
like,
one. Yep.
Before, me and you could go out and drink all night. I get up and train. Now it's like I'm in bed at 8 o'clock and I'm exhausted. Focus. Focus was I was all over the place. And you've seen me.
Yeah.
Now that my levels are better, I'm much calmer. Like I was a raving lunatic.
Which is opposite of what most people think.
They think when you get on steroids, it's not true. I was jumpy. I was fidgety. I'd have 12 different conversations with myself and others at times. And I was going through life doing things half-assed because I was only putting in 30% of effort because I was all over the place and only completing 60% of the task. Yeah. Now it's like that front sight focus. I literally prioritize, strategize, and monetize everything. I just chip away at it. And I'm more patient. And what's so important is I have a better relationship with my wife. And I mean, I know this, and our physical, the intimacy is never been better, you know? So, I mean, and that's what it's about,
And you turned 53. How awesome was that?
It feels great. And I had a conversation with a female doctor and I pulled my wife up and said, listen, I'm at the time, when I started with you guys, I was like early 52 because I've just been with you guys for about a year. And I said, hey, listen, libido, this. And I wasn't embarrassed. I was like, listen, I want to live longer, be happier, be pain-free, and be able to told the lady, have sex with my wife as long as I can. And she was like, I love your openness and your honesty. And we came up with a plan, and man, I follow it to a T.
Yeah. And I think that's the message that most men need to hear is like drop the ego and stop trying to like cover shit up and just like get the support that you need. Like, listen, like these are all, it really is more common and more normal than people think, but it's like you guys aren't talking about it.
There's so many men going through life that just don't have the education and the understanding about it, and they're powering through it. And I was one of them, but the ego is, I'm a Navy SEAL, I don't need that. Eventually, men, you're all going to need it. Like, it's either you can...
If you want a high quality...
If you want a high quality life, yes. Me, I was going through life, on unleaded. Now I'm running premium and I feel great. I mean, that's just the synopsis of how I want to break it down.
How do you approach training, recovery, and performance now versus when you were in the trench,
It's methodical. When I was in the trench, I thought I was invincible. I didn't ask anybody for anything. Now, you saw me on the mat today. I will ask and train with... It's about surrounding yourself with better people. Yeah. And what I do is there's 100 ways to skin a cat. I'm going to put all 100 of those in my toolbox, the physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, and financial toolbox, and utilize them. I'm much more methodical, and you have to be. You have to be. The thing is even though I'm in great shape and I feel great now, I still can't do the things I used to do when I was 25.
And that's okay.
And you have to come to terms with that. But I feel like I'm the best version of 52 and 9/10 that I can be.
Yeah.
And now it's fine tuning. That's what I do.
Excellent. So obviously this event is huge. It's
Yeah.
it's a really big deal, but it's more than just getting guys together. It's about reconnecting on what this mission is. You know, the people that have driven mindsets. What's your biggest takeaway from the event so far?
The camaraderie, the brotherhood, and obviously Sydney has a mission. He loves helping vets and he loves helping people. And I love that. It's intoxicating. It's like a moth to a flame. Everybody that's here wants to be better. And not only do we want to be better, we want to help other people. And I'm in the right room with the right people. That's rare.
And that's kind of what I was going to look. Yeah, when you look around at the men that are here at this event today, what gives you hope?
Just knowing that people were still, look, people traveled from all over the country to show up here. People want to be better and do better, and that gives me hope to be that. I mean, there's a lot of people here that I want to take pieces of, and be like, and I'm going to extract it from all of you. That's what I do. I mean, God, we had how many people show up this morning for jiu-jitsu?
It's more than ever.
It's
more than ever.
It's so easy to make excuses of why not to do it, but there's only one excuse or one reason to do it, and that's to become better. And the people that are here want to be better. That's why they're doing it and showing up.
Yeah, there's a lot of classes happening on medical classes, all kinds of events and situational awareness, going out the range, shooting machine guns, and having all kinds of fun. For those who aren't here, what's one piece of advice you'd give them to start building their own tribe of high caliber men?
Weed out the weak. Weed out every single person that I know has somebody, and I know how to use the word properly, toxic in their life. Not toxic masculinity, toxic in their life. Everybody has someone. You have got to literally do a self-diagnosis on yourself. Who is bringing you down, and you cut them loose. That is the minute I cut the negative people, places, things, and entities out of my life, I became unstoppable, right? So many people settle, I mean, I had a relationship where I hadn't spoke to my mother in 5 years. I rekindled and started that relationship back up on my terms, saying this is how it's going to be. Just because you kick things out of your life doesn't mean you can't bring them back.
Yeah.
But I'm a stronger person now, and it's my way or the highway. And that's just how it has to be. And that's part of that is, I think, because I'm a much more calm individual who is going to live forever.
Yeah, your network is your net worth, right?
That's it, man.
Yeah, I'm always telling people, like, man, be the captain of your own ship and the CEO of your own life. Yeah. Well, as always, awesome. Always awesome to catch up with you. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Ray Cashcare, former Navy SEAL.
Boom.
Where can people find you? And
so obviously, if you want to send me DMs and be nasty, Ray Cashcare IG, but RayCashCare.com is the best way to get a hold of me.
And everything you have going on?
Everything I got going on. RayCashCare.com.
Perfect. All right. Check him out, guys. Peace.
Thank you.